everywhere. GBS.
Evening, and thank you for joining GBS News at 9. My name is Stephen George, and our sign language interpreter tonight is Paul Madenge. And now, with zeal and energy, President William Ruto today wrapped up his week-long Nairobi City development tour in both Lang'ata and Kibra constituencies. The president maintained that the political pact between him and ODM leader Raila Odinga aims to foster national unity while inspecting several development projects. The head of state assured the residents of Kibra slums that there's going to be an upgrade.
Thursday, the fourth and the last day of President William Ruto's Nairobi City's development tour. Very ecstatic, touring the city majestically like a colossal, ostensibly getting the leeway into the region traditionally perceived to be the opposition's stronghold. The new political dalliance between him and ODM leader Raila Odinga seems to have given the president the impetus.
And I must say this, that Raila Odinga is the foremost patriotic leader.
And the message was well chosen to resonate with the residents who majorly follows Mr. Odinga politically.
Ninyi mnajua, mimi nimesema na nimekubaliana na Mheshimiwa Raila Amolo Odinga. And I must say this for the record, that there is no community in Kenya that is visiting. And there is no community in Kenya that has been invited. And there is no community in Kenya that is a refugee. All communities in Kenya are in Kenya by God's design. And it is my responsibility and my duty as the leader in Kenya to work with all leaders, patriotic leaders, that has decided that the unity of Kenya, the progress of our nation, the transformation of Kenya is very important to all of us. And I want to tell other leaders, let us join forces. All Kenyans, let us be patriotic to our nation. Let us work together, not for the benefit of leaders, not for purposes of elections, but for purposes of the transformation, the progress of our nation.
Mutabaki mkiwa mmeungana Nairobi yetu. Mtakubali ukabila tukawanyishe. Sisi ni watu moja. Sisi ni Kenya moja. Wale mnakubali Raila Amolo Odinga na William Samuel Ruto kwa pamoja rone kwa mikono. Asanteni, Mungu awabariki.
To transform Nairobi, the president maintains that the sprawling Kibera slums is looking up for an upgrade in the coming years.
Hatimaye Mheshimiwa Rais anaifungua bamba ya maonyesho. Makofi mazuri
kwa mapenzi ya Mungu. Hii Lang'ata hii Kibra hii tunaona leo ni slum. Hii tutaibadilisha kwa miaka 10 ama 15, hakutakuwa na slum tena hapa. Hapa kutakuwa ni mahali ambapo ni estate, mahali wananchi wanaishi, mahali kuna maji, kuna stima, kuna vyoo, kuna usafi, na mahali ambapo inatoshana na makao ya wananchi katika city ya Nairobi. Mimi nilifika hapa kama miaka 3 iliyopita, na nilikuja kuanzisha ujenzi wa college hii. Mimi nafurahi ya kwamba leo tunakuja hapa kuifungua rasmi ili tupatie vijana wa Lang'ata, vijana wa Kenya, vijana wa Nairobi nafasi ya kujifunza hapa ufundi, teknolojia, taaluma zingine zote, ndio waweze kuchangia katika kupeleka taifa letu la Kenya mbele.
The president was accompanied by Nairobi Governor Johnston Sakaja, Lang'ata MP Felix Oduor, among other leaders.
Karibu sana ndani ya Lang'ata hapa Nairobi West, na asante sana kwa equipment na kwa hii shule. Ya pili, Mheshimiwa Rais, hapa Nairobi West watu wengi hapa kazi yao ni garage pia, na hizi garages zote hapa kutoka railways, Muga, Bible. Tunataka kuomba sheds zote zifanywe, watu wetu wafanye kazi palisafi.
Lang'ata hoye! Lang'ata hoye!
As the head of state wraps up his week-long tour of the capital city, his wish will be to have fished so many Nairobi city residents into his political fold ahead of the 2027 general elections. Victor June, GBS News at 9.
President William Ruto has announced a sweeping change. National ID cards will now be issued for free of charge to all Kenyans. Speaking during his Nairobi tour, the president emphasized the elimination of discrimination in the process and the fundamental right of every citizen to identification, effectively reversing previous policies that were imposed and ensuring equal access to this crucial document for everyone. Susan Nganga reports.
Mnanisikia? Tunaelewana?
During his ongoing tour of Nairobi, President Ruto declared that all Kenyans will now receive their national identity cards free of charge. This announcement comes as a direct response to growing public concerns over the rising cost associated with obtaining this essential document.
Mimi nataka nitangaze nikiwa hapa Kibra leo ya kwamba kitambulisho ipatianwe bila malipo yoyote.
Speaking in Kibra, the president emphasized that access to identification is a fundamental right and no Kenyan should be denied or forced to pay for it. He explicitly stated that any form of discrimination in the identity card issuance process must end.
Mimi nimesema maneno ya ubaguzi kwa mambo ya ID tuitolee mbali. Kila mwananchi apatiwe ID. Kila mwananchi apatiwe nini? Kitambulisho.
This decision marks a significant reversal of recent policies. Just last November, the government had introduced new charges, notably increasing the cost of replacing lost or damaged identity cards from 100 to 1,000 shillings. Historically, Kenya introduced identity cards in 1979 to strengthen national security and streamline citizen identification. Initially, the process was free. However, over time, fees were introduced, creating barriers for many, particularly those from marginalized communities. Susan Nganga, GBS News.
President William Ruto has today toured Odinga's political bedroom, a place he visited freely in 2007, but since the separation between him and Odinga politically, things have not been easy for him whenever he toured Kibra and Lang'ata. But today, the beginning of a new dawn for the head of state due to the broad-based government formed between him and Odinga. But will they stick together till 2027? How about the fate of the opposition? Davis Karani reports.
Hii Lang'ata itawacha kuwa slum. Kibera itawacha kuwa slum. Itakuwa estate kama sehemu zingine za Kenya.
It is an area that President William Ruto could not dare to visit 2 years ago, but today he arrived in Lang'ata constituency, Odinga's political bedroom, dancing the tune of a song composed by Super Mazembe Band led by Ali Kitele, a song popularly known as Kasongo. Due to the agreement signed between Odinga and President William Ruto on the 7th of March this year, aiming to bring in the country together, an agreement also set to witness the implementation of the NADCO report that tends to bring changes in the Kenyan constitution. A section of the broad-based government leaders have warned the government of creating the position of the Prime Minister aimed to bring in Odinga into the government.
What I'm starting to hear at those three levels is as if somebody wants to fix another person, somebody wants to fix a particular party and not the other one,
somebody wants to fix a particular region at the expense of another one, and somebody even wants to fix a community. If that is the spirit of broad-based government, it would be wrong. We should never punish anybody. I hear repeatedly, oh, Kashagwa ho, oh, Rigiji ho. The story of Rigiji is gone. Rigiji was given an opportunity in this house to face me, to face Omogeni, to face all of us, and he chickened out.
The cracks sprouting out in the broad-based government and the cracks developing in the opposition are yet to bring in changes in the political face of the country, as Gachagua, who is currently dubbed as the opposition leader, is tilling up his political ground and is expected to lay and unleash his official political party come May this year.
In the future, hii mlima haitaenda harusi na gari ya mtu mwingine. Na kwa hivyo tumeunda chama yetu ya Mlima Kenya na Wakenya wengine. Na ni gari mpya na iko tayari. Na hiji ni na mwaga maji kwa vile iko sawa. Na driver ni Rigiji mwenyewe. Na hiyo gari nitaitangaza mwezi ya 5. Tunataka nyote mtoke kwa UDA muingie kwa gari ya Mlima Kenya. Mtaingia?
Will he still walk the path together with his political friends, Kalonzo Musyoka and Martha Karua, during the launch of his new political party? This remains to be a rhetoric question till the opportune time. Davis Karani, GBS News, Nairobi.
First Lady Rachel Ruto has reiterated the need for increased funding in school feeding programs, emphasizing their role in keeping children in school. Speaking today at rollout of the National School Milk Program at Tistai Primary School in Nakuru County, she noted that proper nutrition directly impacts a child's ability to learn. The initiative, which will benefit 11 schools across 5 counties, ensures that each child receives milk twice a week to supplement their diet. Beyond milk, Mrs. Ruto highlighted the importance of long-term food sustainability, supporting fruit gardens in schools and homes as part of the broader goal of planting 15 billion trees by 2032. The First Lady's efforts align with the government's broader Feed One End hunger program, which aims to provide 10 million children with decent meals by 2030. Currently, only 2.5 million children benefit from school feeding programs, leaving a gap of 7.5 million. The initiative mirrors past efforts like the Maziwa ya Nyao program, which played a crucial role in childhood nutrition. By integrating sustainable agriculture and food production into schools, the government and stakeholders hope to create lasting solutions to hunger, ensuring that no child is left behind in their pursuit of education.
Your support as an ambassador, Excellency, has given us a boost, and we don't take it for granted when you came in to support us as a ministry, as an ambassador for this program. We feel honored, and we have structured a more focused approach where we need to bring in all women leaders and all other leaders in the next big launch for the program, so that we can talk, communicate, create awareness among all stakeholders, including the private sector, so that we can move as one, because it is a big momentous program for the country. And we support 100%. And I know today's mini launch of the program set pace and steps for the next major launch, for the national launch for the Mama Kitchen Garden, which is scheduled to take place next month.
As a nation, we are deeply concerned with nutrition and health among our learners. This is why the government has set a bold target to reach 10 million school children with universal school feeding by 2030. Currently, the government is providing school meals to 2.5 million children through collaboration with partners. However, 7.5 million children still need a school meal. To be part of the solution to address this gap, we launched an initiative called Feed One End Hunger. Through this initiative, we are working to ensure that schools become food sufficient through food production on school grounds. We are teaching children how to grow food through the 4K Club and working with the Ministry of Agriculture and Education to develop other sustainable initiatives.
The Kenyan government is once again asking for more money to support its police deployment in Haiti. A new supplementary budget currently under review by the National Assembly reveals a request for an additional of 2.5 billion shillings. This comes on top of the 2.1 billion shillings already allocated, bridging the total to 4.6 billion shillings.
The national government is now seeking a further 2.5 billion Kenyan shillings to support the peacekeeping mission in Haiti. In supplementary budget currently before the National Assembly, the Liaison Committee accepted the request by the national government as part of the 23 billion Kenyan shillings given to the security sector. Now, the government has repeatedly stated that this mission will not be funded by taxpayers. However, this second request raises serious questions. Treasury Cabinet Secretary John Badi previously explained that these funds are being advanced on behalf of the United Nations with the promise of reimbursement. He emphasized that the money is needed to pay Kenyan officers deployed in Haiti and that it needed to be accounted for in the budget. Beyond Haiti, the security sector is seeing significant increases. The National Police Service is receiving 7.5 billion Kenyan shillings, with 5 billion allocated to cover insurance shortfalls. The National Intelligence Service gets an additional 9.8 billion Kenyan shillings for security-related operations, and the Ministry of Defense receives 6 billion, primarily to settle pending bills. Susan Nganga, GBS News.
It is time for us to take a short break. Keep your feedback streaming into our social media platform at GBS TV Africa. The SMS line is 244. We'll be right back.
Think you should tell people that you love me so that you don't hit them? Are you done for something? Don't you know how to say excuse me? Are you done for something? Look at this man. Could you excuse me, please? Oh, excuse me. Oh, excuse me, miss. Didn't see you there. Pardon us, miss.
Watch out, big thing coming your way.
Yeah, because we are here to entertain and educate at the same time. So the question of the day, have you ever benefited from any youth-led initiative?
What pushed me to get into the ground, one, was born HIV positive, by the way. So when I was born HIV positive, I felt like the society and the youth need to be educated much on about the HIV and HIV management.
Someone was confessing and alikuwa anasema like yeye ako HIV positive, ni student, but yeye badala ya ajue venye atasaidia wengine,
ya na try venye atasambaza.
Unajua pia kitu kingine yenye natusumbua sisi mayouth ni kiburi. You don't want to learn. Unaona?
Yeah.
Be there to learn. My youth are doing things that they are not supposed to do. Kwa sababu anataka kitu yenye iko beyond yeye. Iko beyond haezi afford. Unaona? Manze mimi nataka kubamba wase kuchafua meza, kukuwa na dem sijui mwenye anakaje. Ndio at least wase wa feel like mimi nimeweza. Manze mimi hiyo ya kuweza, acha tuweze ki mindset. Na pia uset goals. Kama una goals manze kwa hii life sijui penye. Ni kama tu yani you should live with a purpose, not in purpose. Unajua most of us are living in purpose. Whereby yani wewe uko tu manze. Hata unataka kukatia dema na kwambia habari yako mzuri. Unadoingi nini ati mimi niko tu. What is mimi niko?
Everywhere, GBS.
And welcome back. Now, Kenya's economy is set to grow by 4.7% in 2025, surpassing the global average of 3.2%, driven by rising remittances and high female workforce participation, according to the Mastercard Economics Institute's Economic Outlook 2025 report, with consumer spending projected to increase by 4% and inflation stabilizing at 4.8%. The country's economic resilience remains strong.
Kenya's economy is set for a steady expansion in 2025, with GDP projected to grow by 4.7% year over year, according to the latest Economic Outlook report by the Mastercard Economics Institute. This growth outpaces the global average of 3.2%, underlining Kenya's economic resilience amid shifting global trends. Economic recovery and local reforms are expected to sustain remittance growth through 2025, supported by a growing Kenyan diaspora and the continued digitization of payments. The report further predicts that consumer spending in Kenya will rise by 4% in 2025, while inflation is expected to stabilize at 4.8%, easing financial pressures on households and businesses. It noted that Kenya's labor market stands out for its high female participation rate, which reached 72.5% in 2022, one of the highest globally. Hilary Kabila, GBS News, Nairobi.
The African Union has firmly rejected Sudan's paramilitary-led parallel government, warning it poses a serious threat to the country's unity. Urging international non-recognition, the African Union emphasized the need for peaceful negotiations as the devastating conflict continues to displace millions.
The African Union Peace and Security Council has rejected Sudan's Rapid Support Forces declaration of parallel government, warning it threatens Sudan's unity. Following its March 11 meetings in Addis Ababa, the PS urged African Union members and the international community not to recognize or support any such entity. This comes after the Rapid Support Forces and 18 allied movements announced a peace and unity government in Nairobi during scrutiny. Kenya, initially defending its rule, later softened its stance. The African Union reaffirmed its commitment to Sudan's sovereignty and urged peace negotiations, as the ongoing conflict has killed thousands and displaced millions since April 2023. Sudan descended into a deadly conflict in mid-April 2023, when long simmering tensions between its military and paramilitary rebels broke out in the capital, Khartoum, and spread to other regions. The war has killed more than 24,000 people and driven over 14 million people, about 30% of the population, from their homes, according to the United Nations. An estimated 3.2 million Sudanese have escaped to neighboring countries. Paris Kigo, GBS News.
Major disruptions continue to plague eastern Congo as bank closures in rebel-controlled cities severely affect the local economy. Meanwhile, university students in Bukavu, which was taken by Rwanda-backed rebels last month, are slowly returning to classes despite ongoing fears. The unrest has forced over 500,000 people to flee their homes since the beginning of the year, Arin Juguna reports.
In eastern Congo, the closure of banks in rebel-held cities is causing widespread financial instability. Residents and businesses are struggling to access cash, making it nearly impossible to conduct basic transactions. The shutdown of financial institutions has led to a crippling of the local economy, leaving people unable to pay for goods, services, or even access emergency funds. Local businesses reliant on cash flow are facing closure, and families are struggling to meet their daily needs.
We get Congolese francs from other money changers. Others from Rwanda provide us with Congolese francs, but we lack dollars because banks are not operational.
The situation is particularly dire in cities like Bukavu, where the recent takeover by Rwanda-backed rebels has further exacerbated the region's economic crisis.
If the banks open, the economy will be reborn. Money will circulate from one to another. This one will buy, that one will sell.
Amidst this economic crisis, a glimmer of normalcy has emerged as university students in Bukavu are gradually returning to school.
During these months, we have endured many strange things. We stayed at home for at least 1 month and 3 weeks. We were confined due to the security situation. Even today, there is no serenity. We cannot move around safely.
For many, it is a sign of resilience in the face of adversity. However, fear lingers as the conflict continues to escalate and the city remains on edge. The ongoing violence has displaced over 500,000 people since January, with many fleeing to neighboring areas in search of safety. As the humanitarian crisis deepens, both the local population and international observers are calling for urgent action to restore stability. Reporting for GBS News, Irene Juguna.
Niger is currently experiencing a widespread fuel shortage, disrupting daily life and leaving many residents in search of scarce supplies. For almost a week now, the country's fuel supply has been struggling to meet demand, leaving many residents frustrated and transport operators calling for action.
Niger is currently facing a severe fuel shortage, with service stations across the country struggling to meet local demands, causing significant disruptions to daily life. For nearly a week, long queues of cars and motorbikes have formed at stations that still have fuel. The Niger Petroleum Company, Sonidep, has been rationing supplies, but many residents have had to travel across the capital in search of petrol.
I drove all the way to Bukoki, quarter of the capital, near me, only to be told that there were no petrol. Now, someone has just called to tell me to come to a data. Someone with a liter of petrol. For 2 or 3 liters, you have to waste 1.5 liters. It's a nightmare.
Locals are frustrated by the lack of transparency, with some questioning the reason behind the shortage.
We don't have much information on this because the authorities, who are obliged to give us full explanation, are not doing so. We are at a loss. We don't have any real information.
While Sonidep blames the situation on stock shortage, this argument is dismissed by transport operators, who are the most impacted. In addition to the scarcity of fuel, they are seeing their number of clients reduce. The Taxi and Urban Transport Drivers Union believes that the state should increase daily production to meet demands.
We think that the state must take a step forward in terms of production, because if we are told that there are 25 trucks for the city of Niamey, I don't think that's enough. Today, as soon as they stop oil smuggling, everyone goes to the pumps. And when everyone is at the pumps, what is there can't be enough.
Despite being an oil-rich country with a refinery established in 2011, Niger is unable to meet its national fuel needs, which are estimated at over 2 million liters per day. The government is working on measures to address the crisis, including increasing tanker deliveries from 24 to 100 per day and calling for the reopening of borders with neighboring countries like Benin and Nigeria to secure additional fuel supplies. Triza Tiengo, GBS News.
It is time for us to take a short break. We'll be right back.
Get
everywhere. GBS.
Welcome back to more international news. Aid agencies in Ethiopia, war-affected Tigray region, have halted food distribution to millions due to U.S. funding restrictions under a Trump administration. With no money for fuel or transport essentials, aid remains stuck in warehouses, putting up to 1.4 million people at risk. Ethiopia, once the largest U.S. aid recipient in sub-Saharan Africa, has seen critical programs shut down, worsening the humanitarian crisis in Tigray, where recovery from war remains stalled.
Aid agencies distributing U.S. food aid in Ethiopia war-affected Tigray region say they have had to stop feeding millions of people because of the U.S. Trump administration restriction on foreign aid. They say they have no money to pay for fuel, trucks and drivers to distribute existing stockpiles because of the U.S. aid payment system isn't working while the agency is dismantled. Gebrihewot, Tigray Disaster Risk Management Commissioner, said the country put between 1.2 and 1.4 million individuals at risk. Ethiopia, with its over 125 million people, had been the biggest beneficiary of U.S. aid in sub-Saharan Africa, receiving $1.8 billion in the 2023 financial year. In addition to life-saving food, the funds were spent on HIV medications, vaccine, literacy programs, and job creations, as well as services for 1 million refugees hosted by Ethiopia. Most of these programs have been stopped. The USAID staffer who oversaw them had been placed on administrative leave and told not to work as they faced the threat of termination. Tigray relied heavily on the U.S. funds more than 2 years after the war killed hundreds of thousands. Full-scale recovery efforts are yet to start. The region's health system is in ruins and hundreds of schools remain closed. Paris Kigo, GBS News.
The South Korean military have charged 2 Air Force pilots with criminal negligence for accidentally bombing a village that resulted in the injury of 29 people. The village is located close to the North Korean border, where the 2 pilots were conducting a military drill. Here is more on the scene.
Today, the South Korean military have charged the 2 Air Force pilots that were responsible for the destruction of Pushon village. They were charged with criminal negligence that caused the injury of 29 people and caused widespread damages to homes. The Defense Ministry have stated that the 2 pilots were revoked from their duties. The ministry further confirmed that the 2 pilots made an error when they entered the wrong coordinates that caused the 8 unguided bombs to detonate in the Pushon village. North Korea has stated that conducting a military near their body is a risky choice because an accident like the one that happened at Pushon village could materialize, which could cause a war in the Korean peninsula. The South Korean military are facing a reckoning as they face questions regarding their drills, as it might risk the safety of their own citizens and might affect the national security of their country. How can South Korea mitigate such risk from ever happening again? Reporting for GBS News, Irene Juguna.
Tensions between the United States and its key trading partners have reached new heights as President Donald Trump announces plans to impose even more tariffs in response to retaliatory measures from the European Union and Canada. The latest trade moves, including a 25% tariff on steel and aluminum, have led to a series of responses from the EU and Canada, threatening to escalate the ongoing trade war.
We have been abused really for a long time, and we will be abused no longer.
President Donald Trump has escalated tensions in the ongoing trade dispute by pledging to impose additional tariffs in retaliation against the European Union and Canada.
We'll be doing reciprocal tariffs, so whatever they charge us, we're charging them. Nobody can complain about that.
His recent decision to impose a 25% tariffs on steel and aluminium imports, alongside the threat of new tariffs on other goods like copper and cars, has drawn sharp responses. Both Canada and the EU have announced their own retaliatory measures, with Canada set to impose a 25% tariff on 20 billion worth of US products, while the EU will target up to 28 billion in American goods starting April 1st.
We will not stand idly by while our iconic steel and aluminum industries are being unfairly targeted. 25% reciprocal tariffs on an additional $29.8 billion of imports from the United States. These tariffs are in addition to Canada's 25% counter tariffs on $30 billion of imports from the United States in response to U.S. tariffs put in place on March 4th.
The imposition of these tariffs is expected to increase prices for consumers and disrupt global trade, particularly for industries reliant on imported goods. The tariffs have also affected steel and aluminum producers outside the United States, with the EU estimating a 5% impact on its total exports to the US. While Canada's steel and aluminum exports to the US account for nearly 90% of its production. Despite the growing backlash, Trump has shown no intention of backing down, reaffirming his stance on unfair trade practices. Triza Tiengo, GBS News.
In the latest development on the Russia-Ukraine war, sources close to the Kremlin have stated that Russia has put together demands in order for the ceasefire to take place. Earlier this week, US together with Ukraine formulated a ceasefire that will pause the war for 30 days. Ukraine has agreed to the proposal. However, it remains unclear if Russia will agree to the ceasefire proposal. Abdi Ahmed reports.
In a stunning development, Putin visited the Kursk region where Ukrainian forces laid siege in the Russian territory for 6 months. Russia now controls 86% of the invaded territory as Ukrainian military are stuck in the besieged land, vowing to fight until the end. The US is waiting for the Russian response to the 30-day ceasefire proposal that will pause the two countries from engaging in an air and sea combats. However, it is confirmed that Russia has put forward a list of demands that will end the war with Ukraine. Those demands include that Ukraine will never join the NATO alliance. The 4 provinces under Russian occupation and Crimea should be internationally recognized as part of Russian territory, and no foreign peacekeeping forces in Ukraine. Those demands were similar to the ones Russia made during the Biden administration. Russia wants the US and Europe to acknowledge the root of this complex war, such as the NATO expansion towards Eastern Europe. The Trump administration has a goal of restoring relations with Russia and ending the war in Ukraine. However, if Putin refuses the ceasefire proposal, it will further divide the two nuclear nations. Whatever Russia decides, the consequences of its decision will swing in 2 opposite directions, one for peace and the other side riddled with death and destruction. This is Abdi Hamid Ali, GBS News.
We have come to the end of the news bulletin. It is always a pleasure having you on board. Let's do this again next time, same channel. My name is Stephen George. Our sign language interpreter tonight has been Paul Madenge. Good night.
Everywhere.